Hey guys, and welcome back to the Engage Your Passion podcast. And today we're going to be talking about
auditions, specifically virtual versus self-tape auditions, and how to show value and really stand out through the screen.
everything with the new normal is getting back to a new way of presenting value, and we're going to show you some tips. So with that, it's time to get started.
Yep.
Hello and welcome back. Hello and welcome back. Hello and welcome back to the Engage Your Passion podcast.
This is the career. Up and down is the career. Rejection is the career.
So reject me, please.
Yeah.
Because it's going to get me to where I am supposed to be.
It's time to engage your passion.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Engage Your Passion podcast, or we like to say the EYP podcast. My name is Tony.
I'm Sarah.
And together we are Tony and Sarah. Well, welcome back, guys.
Hey guys. We just are so excited. It's the holiday season. If you're listening to this in real time, it's our favorite time of the year.
It really is. Yep.
And just to be able to bring up all the memories of all the holiday stuff we've ever done, and
so much.
it's pretty exciting. I know we've been talking about it for weeks though.
Yeah.
So and then just engaging with you guys and social media and seeing your likes and comments and direct messages. So keep it up.
And you just had a show, didn't you?
I did. Holiday-ish show. It's more of an Easter story, but whatever.
We had a show. So great. So I guess what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to dig into auditions, and we're going to kind of dig in more to how auditions are being done right now with, as the phrase, the new normal.
Right. And I mean, getting back into the new year, where I think everyone's going to go bye-bye 2020 or 2020 and hello 2021, let's make up for everything. But even we're casting for projects coming up. We have a lot of friends casting, TV stuff casting. And from what you had even said, your information, some of your favorite podcasting people are now doing.
Well, actually, I was listening to, it's not a plug, but I like to listen to Rob Lowe's podcast, and he had, what is his name? I can't remember.
Bruckheimer.
Yep. That. He was on, and he was talking like way back when they would watch you on video first, and then if they really liked you, they'd bring you in.
Right.
And that's how things are being done, if not watching your video and then doing something virtual. And I think that's like the first thing we want to get into is the difference between a virtual audition and a self-tape, because people kind of confuse the two. I even confuse the two.
Yeah, but I think just getting that clear so people have a better expectation when they're submitting, and I think at the same time that you're prepared, you know what to bring to your audition, and hopefully you guys will audition for some of our stuff, and then a lot of people are doing pre-screens for college, and kind of giving those administratives the value that they're looking for. So yeah. All right. You ready to get started?
I don't know. Are you ready to get started?
I don't know. I think I'm ready to get started.
Okay. I think we needed some jumping jacks.
Yeah. I feel like we're doing an audition. Okay. Anyway.
Maybe. Is it self-tape or virtual?
Yeah. There we go.
Let's find out. Okay. We think we're funny.
Yeah, we do.
So the first thing is, what is a virtual audition?
What is a virtual audition? A lot of people confuse this with a self-tape, like we talked about. A virtual audition is when you are auditioning live for the casting department, or I call them the decision makers, because it can be anywhere from the casting director to a producer to an administrator, if it's for a college. But that is when you are auditioning or presenting your skills live to the decision makers. So, and it's a little different than a self-tape. So a virtual audition is when, you have 7, 10 people on the call or whatever system they're using, and you are performing your skill live. It's basically like a Facebook Live or Instagram Live, but you're getting evaluated in the moment.
Okay. So would it be normally like what we would normally do, but like are there other people that can see them or only the decision makers?
It depends on the casting company. It depends on who's casting and how they're casting, or depends on the college, or it depends on, I call them the decision makers, kind of covers everybody on what they're wanting to do. Most virtual auditions that I've worked with our clients on and that we produce, it's usually the panel and one auditionee. I'm sure people are doing it differently, but we found that, especially if it's a performance type base, if it's singing, dancing, acting, getting the buffer and the internet rates to all match, it doesn't quite work as well as people would think. But for us and the people that we work with, it is usually the panel watching one person.
Yeah. It's a good way for, as someone who's set on the decision maker side, with everything going on, you want to, and we'll get into it. We're going to talk about the self-tape, but self-tapes can be perfected, as we'll discuss. And it's a really good way to, especially if you're needing something done quick or live, how people will do it on the spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even, regardless of internet buffering or whatever, that's the blessing of a live audition is you say, here, this is what I need you to do. And you can get the reaction right then and there. And that is what you can get from the virtual audition. What are some tips that you have as far as being prepared for a virtual audition?
Well, I think, and stop me because I will get really deep into this because I love the technology aspect of it. But a lot of it is you want to be in an area where they can focus on you. You want to be in an area where there's not, little brother and little sister run around the background, or the dogs, or you want it to be. I always say there's 3 colors that you can do it, especially if it's a performance based. It's either going to be a black background, a white background, or a green background. And with that, those are simple, easy. But at the same time, depending on the type of audition, you may want to be in a park so that it adds to your performance, or it adds to whatever value you're presenting. So your background is important. Your lighting is important so that they can see you. And obviously sound is important so they can hear you. Those are, I guess, the big 3 things, but they just need to be able to see you. They need to be able to hear you. And your environment should be one that they can focus on you. And if you are going to choose between an environment that brings out your performance versus an environment that focuses on you, I would say focus on you, because we can always put you in an environment later. But that's my take.
I'm going to add to that. I think all of that is important, but I think number one, in order to get not necessarily the lighting so much, but to be able to see and hear you, your internet connection is really important. And we've even dealt with that just in recording with our spotlights and stuff like that. Everybody uses Zoom these days, but Zoom is not always the clearest picture you can get. So it's just, making sure that internet is really good. Yeah,
I would. There's a little ad going on online. It's a great. I think it's by Xfinity, but it said something. It's showing someone doing an audition and it's cutting out. It's like, it's not that your audition is bad. It's just your internet's bad. And so they're trying to get you to upgrade. I will say this: if you are about to do pre-screens, if you are about to do lives, I would personally say, and I'm not plugging anybody, this is not a plug, we're not getting paid for this, but I would invest in even if it's on a monthly basis, I would invest in a little bit higher internet, or go to a location that has a higher internet, because it's going to make a huge difference in how that's presented, especially in a virtual audition. Bandwidth is your friend.
Yeah. The only thing that I would add to that is practicing live, whether it's Facebook Live, Instagram Live, doing something where you have a captive audience, maybe not even captive, just something where people can see or jump on. And that way you have experience in videotaping yourself doing whatever you're going to do for your audition, just because doing it the first time and also be prepared, which we're going to talk about, but being prepared to not know what they're going to ask you from you.
Right. Yeah. I think I don't need to say anything more.
So the next one is different than that. What self-tape.
Self-tape. So these more people kind of associate a virtual, or they think of virtual with a self-tape. A self-tape is a pre-recorded example of your skill that you send in, or you present to a decision maker. So if it's acting and you're doing a monologue, you would record the monologue, tape it, and then throw it up on YouTube, and then send the decision maker the link, or Vimeo, or whatever your choice to use. The self-tape is, you have a lot more control of your presentation. And I am going to say this because this is I don't think we talk like this much. I'm just doing this because it drives me crazy. If you're submitting a self-tape, there should not be any mistakes. If you hit a wrong key, push stop, record it, do it again, edit it down, send it in. If a self-tape has obvious things that are going to distract me from seeing your value, I'm just not going to watch it. We have hundreds of people auditioning for some projects. And I will say this with the self-tape as well. The first 10 seconds have to wow you. We do everything we can. It's not 100%. I'm just being transparent. We do everything we can to watch every audition in its entirety when it comes into us. It doesn't always happen, but I can guarantee, and I know a lot of people that I work with, they watch the first 10 seconds, and if they're not blown away or at least interested, done. So I would say make sure your first 10 seconds is something that is watchable and interesting. It doesn't have to be you belting. And I would say, and depending on what they want, it doesn't have to be a slate either. It can be something that you can sing your slate, rap your slate, make it comedic. There was a young lady, it was the best thing ever. It was a self-tape, and she chose the first 10 seconds. It was just an empty screen in her living room or something. And her mom came into the screen going, "What's going on here?" And then dad came in and said, "What's going on here?" And then little brother and sister came in. And then as a panelist, we're all going, "Oh my gosh, this person has no idea what they're doing." And then all of a sudden the family goes, "And welcoming," and I can't remember, her name was Susan or something like that, "and welcoming Susan." And Susan walks in and goes, "Hi, y'all," and starts singing. I can guarantee you we watched the rest of her audition.
Yeah, you really want to make sure. I did some self-tape auditions this summer, and first of all, if it's something you want, you do need to care about it, because some of the self-tapes I saw was you did the first try and submitted it, and you did it with the dog running around in the living room with the going back to the virtual audition, all the same things apply. Lighting, sound, background, all of that. But then again, piggybacking off of what Tony said, is it's probably not going to be the first one you take. You need to take it multiple times, and really care about what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we can tell.
Yes. So here's what you normally, so if you're watching me, I have a pen and paper, or if you're listening, I have a pen and paper. The first thing I do is we look at the screen, and if I am not captivated, my head immediately goes down and I start writing my notes. Yeah. So if you don't want me to look down, then you've got to keep me interested
from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. from the beginning.
Yeah. And so
It's that first impression.
yeah, it's the first impression, and it's your representation. It's your initial representation. So with the self-tapes, and I will say, I'm going to add this, it's okay to edit. And what I mean is editing an intro and editing an outro. Editing a transition, meaning if you're doing a vocal presentation and then going into a monologue, a nice cross dissolve is fine, as opposed to a hard, okay, next, what's next? It's a bit easier. I personally, this is my preference, do not edit during your presentation. In other words, if you're singing a note and then all of a sudden it edits in the middle, right just before you go to a high note, then I'm wondering, can you really do it? That's the only thing. I'd say intros, outros, and transitions, use the editing. Instead of maybe using a slate, depending on what they ask for, you can use a lower thirds bracket and put your name and what high school and what college you go to or whatever. But those are the things I would say. Use editing. There's a lot of free editing stuff out there. And for those self-tapes, you have control. And I'm just going to say it again just so I can get it off my chest. You have the control in a self-tape. Do not send in a self-tape where it's not your most pristine presentation. It's just frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know there are lots of even the high school for the performing and visual arts here did self-tapes for their auditions this season. And I just want to speak to the parents out there, because you guys are probably the ones collecting the information right. And you're probably helping them video. At least that was my experience over the summer. Get help, maybe. Your instructors or wherever they are can help make sure, because unless you have that knowledge of whatever expertise they're auditioning for, dancing, singing, all three, you want to find someone who can tell them, no, you need to go back and do that again. Because, especially with any performing art, you're never going to be perfect. You're not Mary Poppins.
And she was practically perfect.
She was only practically perfect. She was not perfect. Yeah. So you want that that expertise of an eye that can say, maybe go back and do it again or whatever. Investing in that instructor's time might be helpful if this is really something, if going to that high school or that college is what really important to them.
Yeah. I mean, there are resources out there. We have some on the site. We have things of that nature that can help if you're looking for those extras. Obviously, if you have an instructor or a coach or something like that, go to them and have them evaluate it, because they'll be able to know, oh, well, that's your best work. That's not, especially on the self-tape. On the virtual audition, the great part about that is if you're prepared ahead of time, if you're already prepared, then it's just, for lack of a better word for me, just regurgitating what you already have. And they may ask you some things that may throw you, but what they're really asking is how can you handle the situation, not necessarily how wonderful you sound when we throw this to you. Yeah. And so they're looking more for character and value in those situations. So just be yourself and just be transparent. And that usually will be well, in our cases, that's usually the best thing we're looking for, that someone's transparent and then they're just going to go with the flow.
Yeah. So the next one is what you need to present in the audition.
Okay. So this one's cool. Cool. I'll put it this way. It dated myself. It's cool, dude. But I will say, and this is for parents and directors, and then especially for the students, because students tend to, I don't care if it's high school or college, students tend to, did you hear me sing? Did you hear that voice? Did you hear my note? Or a dancer, did you see my turn? Did you see what, I mean, they're more focused on the skill set that I'm presenting. But this is for these are for the directors and the parents to help that student see. It's kind of a trick question. What do you need to present in an audition that makes it successful? And really, at the end of the day, I ask this question in seminars and master classes all the time, and I get, I have to sing good. I have to do this. And I always tell them, it's a trick question. The answer is not a verb. It's a noun. And then people give me the dog tail. And if you're listening, you've seen the dog, they look at you and they go, what? And I call it the dog tail. It's value. If you can sing, a high A or a high C or whatever, great. But that's just one part of the audition. They want to know that, hey, I can work with this person. Is this person a diva? Is this person not, confident? Is this person going to be able to take, they messed up in a virtual, but they came back and recovered. The skill is part of it. And I think we had a podcast on this. I know we have skill versus value. What you're doing in audition is showing your value. And yes, skill is part of it, but there's more to it than that. I just want to kind of put that there. I'll jump off my soapbox now, because often we get people coming in who have these amazing voices, and they're happy to tell you that they're amazing. And we're going, well, how amazing are you that we're going to hire you and have to deal with that attitude for the next 8 to 12 weeks? I'd rather work with someone who's less talented and have a better experience during the show. Yeah. I mean, that's happened many times. And then sometimes we bite the bullet and have to deal with, we have to not deal with, but we have to work with people who are not as easy to work with so that we can get the good quality of the show. Yeah.
Just to move on, because part of your value is how you stand out on these videos, or virtual. It's really hard for some people to really wrap their brain around, especially if they have a routine of doing auditions in person. How do I now stand out when I'm on a screen, whether that be in virtual or on a self-tape? What's your first tip for that?
It may seem obvious, but I just want to kind of push it out there. Give the decision maker what they're asking for. We just spoke at a conference about a month ago now. And one of the things that the questions I had was, how do you know? Because sometimes people will put out audition notices and it's kind of vague. I go, get on the phone, depending on your age, which one you want to do, text, email, social, DM, phone call, and ask the decision makers, the casting director, there's someone who's in charge of that audition, what are we looking for? And I would say 90% of the time, they will tell you, we're looking for this. Sometimes, and I'll be very honest, some people just don't know what they're looking for. But at least if you know that, you can come with a different perspective saying, well, then I'm going to choose this and I'm going to say, this is what you guys are looking for. And you tell them what you're looking for.
Yeah, we did a spotlight, David LaDuca, a while back. I think it was in October. If you go back and listen, he tells the story. Even in person, he showed up to do one role. The producer, who he didn't know was the person checking him in, and the producer themselves said they don't know what they're looking for. Go in and audition for this role.
Yeah.
And
it was for a TV pilot.
It was for a TV pilot, and he got it.
And they did 2 seasons.
Even when they're in person, sometimes they don't know what they're looking for. And it's up for you to bring your... I'm going to go into the next thing about how to stand out is you need to be who you are. Be your authentic self, uniquely yourself. And I did a show, like you said, a while back, or a little bit ago. And for me, I have been doing this show. This was my 4th year to do this show. And I love the fact that it is different every year because the cast changes and who is one role, they're a different role the next year or they're gone. And so someone new steps in and brings their own value. And it allows me to go, you know what, I think I'm going to give, it was a dancing show, so I'm going to put a little more acro into this role because you have that skill and this character can do that now. Right. And that doesn't mean it can't change from year to year. That's one reason, sorry from any of my ballerinas, why the Nutcracker was so annoying sometimes, because depending on who the choreographer was or director, they wanted the same choreography every single year. And I think there is something to be said for tradition like that.
Absolutely. But
I love doing it and it being different. Yeah. And so I know that is where a lot of people are going with. So be yourself. And that, sorry, I got.
No, I completely agree with you.
Fired up there.
But I think as people in educational theater, students, and I say college and high school, the focus, well, in my experience, and I think in our experience, the focus is on they want you to see their skill. You can see me kick my face. You can see me do, I remember a girl, 7, 8 pirouettes and then into tricks and all that. And then when you asked her to go stage left, it was like, what? Mm-hmm. So they kind of, at least in our opinion, you guys, the students tend to focus on, here's my skill. Well, my thing is, who are you doing that skill? Like, what are you bringing to this that I can't get from anyone else, that we cannot get from anyone else? And that's why we're going to hire you. That's why we're going to cast you. That's why we're going to not choose you. And people, I guess with the auditions, that's one thing, coaches and all that. Okay, don't forget that, you'll get vocal coaches. Don't forget that note. Don't forget this. Don't forget that. And it's like, tell me a story.
Yeah.
Especially if it's musical theater. Well, tell me a story.
I had one of my girls, she was one of the main characters. She got injured 2.5 weeks before the show. And I had to make the decision that the value she brought to her role was not worth point shoes to me.
Oh, wow.
And so it was, she was good enough to be able to get through it flat. And I was like, if you go on, you got to go on, because her understudy could not step.
Wasn't prepared.
Even the understudy was like, I can't bring to the role what she's just been doing in rehearsal. So imagine what is going to be left on there. And so as the director, I said, we're going to forgo point shoes and you're going to go in, and that way there's no further injury and you'll be fine. But the show is not compromised.
I think it's a perfect example of value, because not everybody would make that decision. And the show was amazing. So I guess enough said. I have nothing else to add to that. That was an exclamation point. So,
mic drop.
Yeah, bam. Sorry, AJ. Yeah, okay.
And the last one?
I think, and this goes to all of it across the board. And one of your favorite movies and one of your favorite songs. Be prepared. If you are auditioning, if you are going through pre-screens for college, if you are going out for that high school musical, if you are trying to get that role at the college, if you're trying to get that professional role for that TV show, if you're on backstage trying to audition for the new film, if you have your set of audition prep presentations, if you have 6 monologues you can do in any situation, if you have 8 to 10 songs that you can do at any given moment, if you have 4 to 5 pieces of choreography that you can present, then make sure you are practicing those all the time. So when someone asks, either virtually, what do you have? Oh, I've got this, boom. Or if we're doing a self-tape, you're not taking, okay, take 93, because you have something there that you have prepared, you feel good about, you're confident about, and you've done it so much that we can't help but see the excellence and the value that you're going to bring to that project.
And I just want to tie in, because I think you talked about this last week when we talked about branding, and I just want to tie in one thing that you were talking about is, being prepared. You're talking about being prepared. And that's one thing, one of the tips, if we go back, is Tony mentioned on the last episode that you should be able to respond to somebody within 5 minutes. So having your demo reel, having your headshot, having all of that is part of being prepared, and which is part of branding, which is why, and then this is part of auditions, which is why being an artist is so important to brand yourself. So this is why we talk about it so much, is if you are branding yourself, you are automatically setting yourself up for success and not failure when it comes to being an artist, in regards to auditioning, networking, just going and actually doing the job as well.
Yeah, I mean, and the one thing, we were talking with a client and their guest on a different project, and one of the things that came up was your brand, depending on if you're a personal brand or if you are selling purses or eyelashes or makeup or whatever, the first part is the product. That's great. Or the service or the skill, if you're an artist and you're bringing that in. The second part of that brand, which is the most important, which I think is even more important, is the relationship that you have with your decision makers or your customers or your clients or whatever you call them, having that relationship and the value that you bring to them outside of whatever you're presenting as a service or a product. And I don't mean to digress, but what I'm getting at is your brand translates to all of that. So once you get the role, you prepare and you get that role for that audition, and then you do that show, and then your brand is going to keep going because they're going to remember that great relationship with you. And next time, maybe you may not even have to audition. You'll just get the role because they know what you can do. And that is what builds the momentum for you as an artist to become a brand, meaning that your brand relationship or your brand, what we call brand relevancy or brand equity, increases by everything you do, no matter what, even if as an artist you hit a wrong note, or even as an artist if you don't nail that, pirouette, or you don't hit that monologue. It's not just about the skill and the performance. I mean, it has a lot to do with it when you're it has a lot to do with it as an actor or singer or dancer on stage. But as far as being able to present yourself as a value in other things, that is one piece of it. So, yeah.
Well, just to wrap up, so we talked about auditions.
I have a question.
Oh, AJ has a question.
Cool.
Okay. So you guys are saying, you have to re-record and edit it in and all that. So, how do you know when it's, ready to send in? I know I've re-recorded my self-tape, 93 times to where the point I almost lost my voice re-recording it because I felt as if it wasn't good enough to send it. So, how do you come to the realization that it's okay to send it in?
My perspective on that, AJ. Just hit the phone. That's where I think having your person, or an instructor or someone else who kind of has an idea about the business, even if it's a friend who knows something, a mentor or somebody who can be with you, or at least take a few takes and say, hey, can you review these and give me some feedback? Getting feedback from people is really helpful. That way you don't overdo it.
Yeah, I mean, I would answer that in a two-part. I go, one is on just the mental health part where it goes, we're our own worst enemy. So it's never, oh my gosh, that's not good enough. So I think first part is, and I think to be able to alleviate that is, one, take your presentation and compare it against what they're asking for. So the first part is, are you delivering what they're asking for? Second part, and these are just tips on to get that feedback so that you feel comfortable sending it in. I agree with my lovely wife. If you have an instructor or a mentor, someone that you trust and their opinion, hey, I am doing this for this project. I'd like to send it to you and get your feedback before sending it in. The second part on that is, if you do not have someone, find someone in your area that you do appreciate and you do respect and send it to them. One, it's going to help them know who you are. And two, most likely they'll give you feedback, especially if you ask for help. Most people in this industry, especially when it comes to people who are in educational theater or just starting, and you say, can I get your help? And those are powerful words, because someone who was in a place of influence had help at one point, and most people are willing to pass it forward.
Yeah.
So I hope that helps.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, so we talked about auditions today. Really, the difference between virtual audition and a self-tape. So self-tape, like AJ was just talking about, is something you can edit down and you can make sure it is the best version of yourself that you are there. And virtual...
Virtual is a live presentation. It's very similar to being in person, but it's through through technology. We feel that with technology, investing in the bandwidth for wherever you are, or getting access to a higher bandwidth is part of being prepared, because that is really going to help with your presentation. And we talked about with both your self-tape and your virtual, what does your background look like? What is your lighting? What is your sound? We have to be able to see you. We have to be able to hear you. And we want you to be in an environment that allows us to focus on you, not other things. So that was the second part.
Next is, yes, do you want to present your skill? Absolutely. They're going to ask for that regardless. What you really want to present is your value.
Yes. There are different ways to present your value. Obviously, skill is one of them, and that's where most people focus on. Second is being prepared. Third is when you have a chance to ask questions, interact with the decision makers, let them know that you're excited about it. I mean, I think the best thing of showing your value on a video screen or a self-tape in the minimal amount of time that you have is just project that confidence and start from there. And that comes from being prepared.
Yeah. And then last, just do your best to stand out. Make sure you know what they're asking for ahead of time. Do your research. We've talked much about that in auditions, is make sure you have done your research and know what they're asking for. Make sure you are who you are. Be you. How can you show up and make that role yours?
Yeah. And I think just to follow up on that, the value is more important in the long run. We talked about the roots and everything. The value is more important than the skill in many instances. And some people may go, really? Yeah, it's really not about how well you sang for that audition. It's how can we work with you over and over and over again? Because, they always show up prepared. They always can deliver. They can learn things very quickly. They know how to take that dance step and do whatever. So bring your authentic self and show your value with confidence initially. And as they get to know you, or as you do additional auditions, you may start seeing the same decision makers. And believe me, they're noticed. And I guess I'm going to say one last thing. Please remember, every decision maker that holds an audition wants you to be amazing.
That's whether in person or virtual or watching a self-tape. No one wants you to fail.
No one wants you to fail. They want the best people for their project. They want you to come in and wow them. They are not there to go, oh, Gaia, that's what this person. Most people that I've worked with, even from professional to home, to local community theater, nobody wants you to fail. They want you to be amazing so that their project can be amazing with you in it.
I think we said this on the last one, is we need you to solve our problem.
Right.
We have a problem. We need people to fill this. And you can be the answer to our solution, or you can be the solution to our problem.
Exactly. And I think if you I feel the mental health walking into an audition with, you all are going to be amazed to have me in your project. And it doesn't matter if you make it or not. That is the persona, I would suggest where there's confidence, and we talked about this too, but confidence versus conceit. But when you go in there, have the confidence and go, you want me. You want me in this project, and I'm going to present to you why. And I think if you keep that as the focus and not, oh my gosh, I missed that note, I just feel think of the long road in this industry as opposed to each individual audition. Still be prepared, but there's more to it than that one moment in time.
Yeah. Most people are not going to think that their mental health is something that they need to work on. But you'd be surprised. Even if you don't feel like you need to work on it and be surprised at where you end up.
Yeah. Take out that trash.
Yeah.
Take out the trash.
I like that.
Well,
Take out the trash.
Yeah, take out the trash. Well, that is it for today.
Yeah.
And I hope you got a lot out of this. And, auditions are amazing opportunities to show your value. And I hope you guys can take these points and use it to further your career and your brand. And so with that, my name's Tony.
I'm Sarah.
And until we meet again, engage your passion.